All right, everyone, it's time for some more bug news. This comes from the UK's The Guardian. Eating insects is not going to save the planet. And this is an editorial, a letter sent in, but it's actually really good. I'm surprised The Guardian published it because generally they are all on board with pushing eating the bugs. Uh, but its point, is summarized pretty quickly in the first part here. Instead of helping the environment, in practice, insect farming mostly adds an inefficient and expensive layer to the food system we already have. And this is true. So obviously, you have the issue of insects being disgusting and the average person not wanting to eat them, despite all of the generally propaganda that is being used to push how eating insects will save the planet because it's better than meat and blah, blah, blah. And it is true that insects are a more efficient source of calories than raising cattle. But almost everything is a more efficient source than raising cattle because people don't raise cattle for efficiency; they raise cattle for taste. Um, but what this goes into even better is that, generally speaking, insect farming is an inefficient process if you're just trying to talk about absolute caloric efficiency. Because what you feed to insects is general, like if you want to feed insects something that isn't literally just human waste, you're going to have to feed them some sort of clean crop, if that's corn or wheat or soybeans or whatever. In which case, why aren't you just using the corn or the wheat or the soybeans to just directly feed people? This is a pointless middle step, especially because people really don't want to eat the bugs anyway. On top of that, when you're talking about people eating insects, very rarely are people willing to eat whole insects. What generally gets sold is something containing insect meal or insect parts. So it would be like, well, this pasta has insect protein in it, or this bread is made with insect flour, or whatever. This cake has cockroach bits in it, or something disgusting. It doesn't matter. Uh, but those products are already fairly efficient calorically. If you're talking about flour is more calorically efficient than insect meal. And again, unless you're feeding the insects literal human waste. Um, so if you're trying to like look at this from like a veganism perspective, or when people try to justify what they eat based on environmental impact and ethics, you completely miss out on the ethics thing because vegans generally won't consume any animal products. But also, from environmental impact, it's better to just eat the plants than it is to eat the bugs. So, if this is a concern of yours, where you want to have as minimal environmental impact in your diet as possible, it's just better to eat beans than it is to eat bean beetles. Like it's just a there is no, what would you say? There is no audience for this. Like other than it being weird and kooky and kind of novel, no one really wants to make insects a large part of their diet. And if you want to become vegetarian because you don't want to eat animals, you're not going to want to eat the crickets anyway. Why not just eat beans and fruit and vegetables and nuts? And like these things are already very efficient. They're all ethical. This is just a nonsense position that is being pushed so hard through basically every major media source. On any given day, if you go to like Google News and type in eating insects, you will get a handful of articles that were published that day pushing for eating more insects. And this is done every week. These same stories are propagated through every major news outlet, where it'll be the same author just reprinting the same article over and over and over again to get more and more eyes on this article. It is definitely a concerted push, and finally someone comes out that is considered respectable. Dustin Crummett is the executive director of the Insect Institute in the UK, saying that this is stupid. finally someone is going to push back on this that isn't already inclined against it because it's disgusting. That the public can see, well, actually, this, if you want to play the logic game instead of the just visceral disgust game, although the visceral disgust game I think is a better attack vector, this is just pointless on multiple levels. So this will be a recurring topic. I know I've already talked about eating zabugs multiple times, but that is because it just keeps coming up. This will not be this is not a story that anyone's in the media is willing to let die. It is pushed through the government. It's pushed through the media, and it's just nonsense. So we'll talk about it later at some point. Until then, see you, Red.